questions, and yeah, just get everyone in. So, great. So what we have is we have 10 speakers, or 10 companies, and in those 10 companies, what we'll be having is 15 minutes tops for the presentation. So we will cut you off at 15 minutes, and we'd like the judges to try to keep their comments below 10 minutes as well. So not total, so just have some brief comments. We can't go too long here, because we want to wrap it up through the day, get an equal chance. And I know there's a lot of, everyone here has some great companies and amazing concepts. But let's keep the time constraints in mind.
All right, I think we're ready to go. Again, we're back for the second round of the startups. Remember, since we got everyone in the room, I'm going to go through this. We have 3 categories. The first category is innovation. Second category is ready for market. And the third category is cryptocurrency blockchain. And those 3 categories each have a $1,000 prize. And there's no crossover between the categories. So there'll be 3 winners today. So, and we'll announce that at the end of the day. So our first one coming up, as he was in the pitch contest, we have Michael Reed coming up for VR, Practical VR, and he's got up to 15 minutes to do his presentation. Welcome, Michael.
We're now in the future.
Right, so I am Michael Reed. I am the founder and CEO of Practical VR. And today, I'm going to show you guys a glimpse of the future. But before I do that, I realize that most people in the room have not seen holograms yet. You might have seen them in Star Wars, but you haven't seen these types of holograms yet. So I felt it was a pretty good idea to show you guys some of that first. And then this will be my first presentation where I'm actually going through the slides on the HoloLens. So this could be pretty interesting. So, but first, before I go into that, let me just show you guys a little bit of the future here. So these devices have a firm understanding of everything around us, right? I can click on the ground. It's going to map the environment. It's going to map everybody around. But I can also make objects interact with the environment. So I'm going to place that cool dude there. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Let's see him dance a little bit. So these are holograms. That object will persist here until I delete this space from my device. I can come back here a year later, look at that exact same spot on the ground, and I can see that hologram dance. Incredible, right? So I'll jump into the slides, and I'll show you a little bit about what we're working on. What we really see is the transition from our physical reality, where we have to access digital through screens, to a completely merged reality, a mixed reality, where digital and physical exist in the same. And so one aspect of these devices is they're big, they're bulky. They're not the coolest thing in the world, right? But my background's in telecom, and I can tell you that these devices will get thinner, lighter, faster in a very short period of time. Carriers will begin to put SIM cards in these so we're connected everywhere we go. And then digital will just exist around us. And so we've worked on quite a lot with Practical VR. And let me show you here. So I'm just going to swipe to my next slide. All right, so what we've done is we've built the first mixed reality analytics platform. This platform is released, it's active, it's launched, and we have initial traction. So let me show you here. So we launched in May of 2017, and we were very well received from the development community. We've had over 400 authenticated users to date, and we're encroaching on 250,000 total unique events that have transferred through our platform. Keep in mind, this is just for HoloLens, right? HoloLens is a very small market. It's a very early development market. These devices are $3,000. So for us to see this much traction and success in such a small market, we know that when we expand to AR Kit and AR Core, that we'll see that same traction there as we bring a lot of the same experiences over. So I'm going to introduce you to Greg here. And Greg is a developer. So Greg has integrated practical analytics into his application. And what we see here is Sterling. She's clicking about in her environment, firing at these orbs as they fly around. But what we're really capturing is every gaze. Every time she looks at one of these objects, we capture that information. Every tap of her finger, the environment around her. And then we give that information to Greg through our portal. So he can log in and he can see the engagement level of his application. He can see how Sterling participated in his app, and he can help make his app better. One insight that he got from integrating us is those orbs were moving way too fast. She couldn't really gaze at them. She couldn't target them well. So now that he has that insight, he can improve his app and make a better application. So we're continuing to build out on these analytics for many years to come. Gaze, gesture, voice, those are some of the inputs we provide. So what we saw when we talk about an analytics platform, and I have a very strong background in blockchain. I followed Bitcoin since 2012. Yeah, I paid very close attention. I participated in what we now know is called the first ICO Mastercoin, right? Now dubbed Omni. I participated in the space for a very long time. And so it was core and essential to me from the very beginning to include crypto in my platform, because I've always envisioned that this is the future of how I transact. You can't type a credit card number into this space. I mean, let me show you a keyboard here, right? So tell me how this is going to look if I'm sitting here typing in a credit card number to make a transaction when I go to Starbucks. Do we want credit card information stored on devices? That's another question that we face. I've always envisioned the future of this technology to where you might pull a coin out of your hand and toss it at the counter, and that's how you transact in a mixed way. That's how you simplify the user experience of transaction to where you don't even see the address. You just see the transaction take place. And so we've done a lot of thinking about this future mixed economy and how this digital economy will become physical to us. And so we've looked at this in its first stage, in its infancy, as an extension of our analytics platform. We need to introduce an economy for this. So today, for the first time ever, I have not shown this, and there's limited amounts of information I can discuss at this point, but I'd like to introduce you to Prax, the first holographic token. So Prax can be used in many ways in mixed reality, but the way we're using Prax initially as a part of our platform is to encourage users to map the world around us, right? I showed you guys, right? We can map the room with these devices. And so, mapping. This brings me to mapping. And I'm so excited to show everyone this here. And this is why I untethered the microphone here. Oh, everything disappeared. So I gotta let the device get an idea of where the wall is. All right, follow the pointer, walk around, scan my area. So you're gonna see as the device starts to map the floor, I can make it start mapping the ceiling. And we can collect this data on our server. And what's this? And so these holographic tokens will lead me around the environment. They'll lead me to all the corners of the room. They'll even lead me outside of the room to encourage me to map the world around us. So you might ask me, why is this important? Why do we need maps of our environments? That's a good question. So this guy, if I exit here, this guy down on the ground here, in order for him to be anchored to the world, this device has to understand where I am in the world, has to understand the map of the world. But the key thing is that even though we understand the map of the world, it's just my device. It's stored in my device, meaning that if someone else in this room had a HoloLens today, they would not be able to see that guy anchored in that exact same spot. That's a challenge. Not only that, but if you think about the whole aspect of me having to walk around the room to map a location every time I launch an app, that's a challenge. No, go away, Cortana. No, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Opening rear injectors.
Let's let Cortana get involved here for a second. She wanted a little bit of the spotlight. So that whole aspect of me walking around the room to map a new environment every time I launch an app is rather difficult. You know, it would probably take 10 minutes to map this entire space, to get a clean, high-quality map. And so that was the first user experience issue we saw with these devices, is that every time a user launches an app, they shouldn't have to map a space over again. And on top of that, the developer of apps and games and enterprise whatever for these devices, they have to make an experience that encourages the user to look at every part of the room. Because if I launch a game I have on here called Orb Destroyer, and I don't map every corner of this room, well, my orbs are going to float off into endless space because my app doesn't know about my environment. So we wanted to simplify that user experience. We wanted to provide a way that when a user walks through a door, we can send them that map. So now we have the incentive-based economy to where users are walking around the world collecting maps for us. And then we're giving those maps back for them. So we have the use for Prax. We have the reward for Prax. And we've instantiated the first inception of the practical economy. So you ask me what's next, right? We have 3 pillars at Practical. Computers need to understand the world around us. That's maps. So let's jump into the second pillar, if my presentation will. PowerPoint. I'm going to have to scroll back through here and find it. This is their demo PowerPoint version. They just released this, actually. Imagine the future of when I can have a presentation that's full of just holographic objects. You know, to where I'm not looking at a 2-dimensional screen for a presentation. I'm just guiding people through an experience for the presentation. There we go. So we talked about the first pillar. Computers need to understand the environments around us. The next pillar is computers need to understand what's in the environment around us. Objects. Right? So we're collecting information about the world. Now, how do we make computers understand our world even more? There's a lot of companies out there today that are looking at objects as, let's recognize the objects and then let's overlay an advertisement on that object. That's cool and all, but we need to start to capture these objects, yes, but also tag what they do. And so the future of Prax allows us to continue to reward and motivate users to collect data to build this greater reality, this digitally merged reality. After we go into objects, computers need to understand what we do in the world around us and what we do with those objects. Actions. So how does the future of pay change? How does the future of the world change to where when I pick up a piece of trash and I place it in a trash can, the computer understands that and recognizes what I did? So what would stop a municipality from placing crypto in a wallet and incentivizing their citizens to pick up trash around town? These are the pillars that we're building practical on. And the ultimate goal is to build a collaborative future. We're transitioning from a time to where all of our digital world is contained through personal devices. Smartphones, personal computers. We're going into an era of collaborative computing. And so I had to collaborate with a few people to get it. My co-founders. We have about a team of 20 people working on this today to solve some of these more complicated issues within mixed reality. And we've been fortunate enough to where we're self-funded to this point, so we can build out some really cool tech, and we don't have outside influence at this moment in our company. So this is hard to read. I'm short on time, but the essential startup story, we were bootstrapped in a garage, right? And the goal is so that I wouldn't walk into your house, I can see the holograms that you place in your environment, how you've themed your walls like a beachfront property. Prax is coming soon. Go to prax.practicalvr.com. We can't capture your information yet. My DevOps guy had some struggles right before this, but we're coming soon, so pay attention. Look out for Prax.
We got time for questions?
Yeah, you got 10 minutes, yep.
Okay.
I'm sure you could go a little longer.
So what devices does this work with right now? Is it just HoloLens?
Right now, so we've seen the premier experience of mixed reality to be HoloLens. It's the
Right.
first premier experience device. And so we wanted to target HoloLens first so that we could understand the technology
Right.
and all the new design patterns for mixed reality.
So are there any standards for geospatial mapping at the moment that are independent of Microsoft or Apple? Because it seems like this is all going to be proprietary.
Well, so SLAM exists, right? And SLAM is simultaneous localization and mapping. Every big player in this space is working on SLAM right now. Snapchat, Facebook, everyone.
Okay,
is
so there
building
is
SLAM.
going to be a standard for geospatial mapping.
We're piggybacking on their standards, right? There
Okay.
is already a standard on how you store these point clouds. We use their SLAM. We're not building our own SLAM. We're building our own localization.
Okay, so the follow-up question is, what is the data overhead for mapping a room of, say, this size?
So generally uncompressed, you're looking at about 20 megs. So not that massive of a map. We can compress that down, and we've built some custom compression algorithms to get that very, very small so that we can stream maps versus sending them all at once.
Okay, and where will this be stored? A blockchain or a database or?
So it would be impossible to store all of this data on a blockchain
Right.
right now, and I fully understand that. To say that 20 years from now, we don't know. It might be possible. And so right now, to me, it's all about building a roadmap to decentralization. Yes, we have to remain centralized at first. We can't open source our localization algorithms to Google because that could be a really big problem for our org.
And then now we're
But
getting closer
it's
to my
the
question.
roadmap. It's the roadmap to decentralization.
So who
for those.
owns the data that goes into that centralized database? Do you own it? Is it open source? What's the story there?
In the beginning, yes, we own the data. And it is centralized in the beginning of our product. There's not a way to store this in a decentralized way yet. It's a matter of there's a lot of companies working in this space. There's a lot of companies working on the AR cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But the question you have to ask is, how are they implementing blockchain in their technology? Do they have a roadmap to decentralization?
Okay, but this is more an intellectual property conversation. So you guys own the data. So if I map out this room, it'd go to your servers. That's your IP?
That's our IP, yeah.
Okay, so you're free to do whatever you want with it.
Initially, yes.
Okay, so for example, if Lab 41 comes and talks to you guys and says, we'd really love to know the interiors of buildings in Pakistan or something, can you sell that to us so the CIA can have it? Like, what's the fair use if I'm a user?
That's a matter of building brand and trust, right? And I have a background in privacy rights advocacy, I started a national movement as far as privacy rights go.
Right.
And so this is part of a bigger picture, because there are a lot of privacy questions that come up with these devices. It's an always-on head-mounted camera that people are going to adopt in a blink of an eye.
Right.
So there's a lot of privacy questions that I think about on a day-to-day basis, and I've thought about for many years. And so I don't necessarily trust other people with that data, and so I wanted to build a situation where that data could eventually be locked away, and not one person has access to any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this was absolutely amazing to see. But I guess what I was lacking, or what I didn't see, was like a business plan and like how you're going to monetize it. I guess we're talking, you own the data, so you're planning on selling data
No,
to app developers?
I don't plan to sell data.
Okay.
We have a very
Trick question.
unique economic model for our token coming out. I can't elaborate or talk about that today,
Okay.
but it's something very innovative within the token space right now. So I look forward to sharing that in the weeks to come.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It was a cool product demo, but I guess I was just looking for the company part of it or the business part, and you've answered that question, so it's still sort of like proof of concept to me. But it has potential in the future. It's just I think a lot of the devil's in the details, right? When doing any sort of new product or new company, so a lot of that still needs to be worked through, which is part of the startup process.
Sure, and we're pretty unique in that we have a product out, we have a product launch, we have users actively using our product on a daily basis. So we do have initial traction. It's just the path to monetizing that initial traction. And yes, that piece is a proof of concept, but I think people will be very impressed by what we show.
Yeah, but the go-to-market part in actually building out a company versus a cool product is not that easy. Like what we think as entrepreneurs, and we think users will do this and we'll pay for this, or companies will do this and we'll work at this timeline, never goes according to plan, right? So.
Of course, yeah, I have a strong background. I was in corporate management at AT&T, so I definitely bring some business acumen from that side of the world. And I've studied very heavily the adoption of the smartphone and mobile devices over the years, and as far as our business model goes, we've made a lot of parallels as to what we project and what we see.
Do you want to give a little insight into that, or is it just your background?
As far as telecom and the adoption of mobile devices?
Or no,
I mean,
like practical. So how are you applying that knowledge to practical? What does that plan look like?
So that does go into the monetization of our product, right? And so I'm bound by lawyers to not reveal that side of things yet.
Well,
It's
what
very-
about just user coverage or market coverage? Are you, like, what is your market? Are you going to go after businesses first, or are you going
Sure,
after
so
consumer?
we're planning
Are you-
expansion to ARKit and ARCore, which Apple plans to have 500 million ARKit-enabled devices by the end of the year. And so we're in the process of, now that we've created the premier experience, how do we recreate that, and how do we bring standards over from mixed reality development on these devices to help the developers on mobile mixed reality platforms to also see insights in their applications and have a more simplified user experience.
So, like, product roadmap would be something like SDKs and stuff like that?
We have our SDK out. We have a HoloLens SDK out. It's a matter of porting our SDK to ARKit, which we are actively looking at doing.
Okay.
So back onto the data question, I've been really interested in open source blockchain economic models in terms of the way we think about our relationship to data. And because we're using public-private key encryption in systems like this, you do have the capability to take this data and make sure that this data is essentially private and owned by the individual, but still put some sort of like source in terms of the data being in a fully open ledger or in a fully open database. So are you planning on keeping the database is transparent in terms of what you can see from a cryptography level, but the actual footage is owned by the company in a proprietary way? And I understand you need solutions like whether it's going to be Golem or IPFS or any of the other, like MadeSafe or Sia Coin, any of the other distributed storage solutions that you could implement or that you could kind of merge your token with to make this a more effective system. My question is just why not because of the way that these technologies are structured, why not actually make this a public ledger from the beginning? And am I mistaken in that it is a public ledger, but that the data on the public ledger is proprietary data?
So there's too many concerns around
Yeah.
scalability right now, and that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big topic within the industry right now, is
Yeah, of
how
course.
do these things scale?
Yeah.
And so I cannot consciously, as a CEO of a company, depend on others to scale my product.
What blockchain are you using? Are you creating your own?
So we're using an ERC20 token, and I can reveal
Ah.
more about some advances that we're doing to offset the challenges of scaling coming up. We're not just using ERC20 token.
Uh-huh.
I cannot talk about
Okay.
the other piece of this,
Okay.
but I can say we're using
Oh, I
ERC20.
get that. Partners, whatever, all that stuff. So if you're using an ERC20 token, my other question would be in terms of like your modeling, are you doing a lot of pre-mined coins? Am I allowed to ask how many coins will be released? And do you have a finite token set? I believe you mentioned that you had a finite token set.
I
Am
can
I?
say that it will
Yeah.
be finite,
Great.
but I cannot say any sales specifics yet. Yeah,
Okay. Very cool.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good start. Okay, as far as time goes, we are trying to do this as quickly as possible. So let's try to get, if we can, the whole session in 20 minutes per service. So I would say, 10 to 15 minutes tops for anyone coming in that's doing the presentation. Try to do 10 minutes if possible, and you're also being conscious so each one of you can give a response. All right. Let's go with my list. Yeah, so the next one we have is Illuminate. Come on up, Rob. All right.
Can I pull this out? Is there a clicker by any chance? Okay, cool.
Can you use mine if you want?
Oh, that'd be lovely. Oh, cool. Does this connect? Oh, fantastic. I like bring the computer around. Sorry.
You got it up.
So I just. Oh, that's sweet. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert. I'm here to talk about Illuminate. And the story of Illuminate really starts thousands of years ago. And our sort of worldview is that the people who influence societies and how we interact with each other are the people who can move assets and can move capital. So you're looking at gold traders of the Sahara. You're looking at the Chinese and the Silk Road, and whoever is a merchant. So fast forward to 1494, and this is the first recorded evidence of Venetian traders using what's called a credit debit system, which we're all familiar with because it's persisted to this day. The Venetians wanted a way to track how they exchanged their assets and goods and their capital. The problem with it is that because of the way they stored the data, which is siloed databases, because each one of us is our own database, it led to the double spend problem. And even worse, it led to a trust problem. So what ended up happening was schools, governments, banks have taken this model and have sort of taken advantage of the fact that we cannot trust each other to deliver services such as moving credit or delivering education or delivering basic services. And so that's where we see blockchain as the solution. It's to take back trust and to take back trust as a commodity for the people. That's what Illuminate is all about, is pushing distributed ledger technology and blockchain technology as a vehicle of trust for the people. So we do that in two ways. We have a consulting practice where we build blockchain protocol and tokens for our clients, and we have an intelligence program where we build products that is going to bridge the knowledge gap between key stakeholders and the blockchain world. We have a $7.5 million valuation on the work we've done already, and we're only getting started. So let's start with consulting. We're pushing mass adoption because we're bringing blockchain and distributed ledger technology to the organizations that could use it. So what will happen is we'll have a client, we'll have a nonprofit, a government agency, or a company come to us and say, listen, we either have this idea for blockchain, or we have our company, is there a blockchain solution here? And we'll evaluate, and we'll do everything from writing the white paper to launching a token. This is our rollout methodology. It takes a few weeks and a lot of time naturally, but we're all about getting it right and launching a really comprehensive blockchain solution. These are our first 3 clients, a number of different applications. We do things sort of disregarding the type of protocol. We don't commit to a specific type of protocol. So we'll do things on distributed ledger, blockchain, hyperledger, Ethereum, that type of situation. And our intelligence platform. So this is what we're really pushing, because we believe that our intelligence platform is going to bridge the gap between the fund managers, the Congress people, anyone in the regulatory affairs, anyone working in capital markets. It's going to bridge the gap for them into the blockchain world. There's not a lot of people that even know sort of what blockchain is. In particular, our first product is called CoinScore, and we're rolling it out in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And what it allows is for anyone, whether it be an analyst, an academic, to actually take an entire look at what a blockchain market would look like. It closes the knowledge gap. So the current systems for sort of looking at what a coin is a little bit all over the place. So you have a lot of different platforms on the internet that are giving you certain data about the price, or they're giving you certain information, and CoinScore is a place where all of that is aggregated. We organize the blockchain solutions and their respective cryptocurrency into 16 different sectors, use a 50-dimensional analysis, and there's an infinite opportunity for researchers and anyone looking to get into the blockchain world to understand what's happening in the blockchain markets. So this is sort of our sector breakdown, and this is what it gives to our stakeholders. Naturally, it gives incredible insight. The taxonomy is comprehensive. We analyze which token belongs in which subsector, and sort of gives an overview of the health of the entire sector. We compile data from all over. And we have some incredible technology we're building, including our sentiment analysis, which we're really pushing. This is something that's really, really incredible, because what it does is it's a machine learning process. It takes a look at all the rhetoric and articles and news articles on the internet and sort of deciphers how the world is feeling about a certain cryptocurrency. And actually, speculation often drives what the price could be. And this is sort of a way to analyze that speculation. And it comes from all over: natural language, the news, etc. And so this is the most comprehensive blockchain and cryptocurrency market sort of evaluation ever. And okay, before I get to that, can we just turn the camera away for a minute? Is that all right?
Yeah, pause it for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, wonderful. So this is going to be the second time now that we showed anyone what the platform will actually look like. So we did a demo in Washington, D.C. last week. This was at an Ethereum meetup that Joseph Lubin keynoted. We presented right after. Aram, our CEO, went through it, and this is sort of what it will look like. A beautiful cutting edge. Everything's in one place. It comes from all over. And what will happen is you could go and delve into the subsector and look at the blockchain solutions for each subsector, et cetera, et cetera. There are more pages that I'm not going to show, but this is sort of what it's going to look like. And so our pricing for this is going to be $100 for a standard access and $500 for premium access. What that exactly looks like, we haven't released yet, but it'll be released when we actually release the platform. And we're currently in a Series A. So as of last week, we went to Silicon Valley, sort of, pitched this around. We've been given a $25 million valuation. If you want to get in on the funding round, info@illuminate.io, shoot us a note. And now it's all about the future. Well, okay, September 5th is the past, but Illuminate is 3 weeks old. We just launched. We used to be something called Virgo Asset Management. So we were doing cryptocurrency investment for people, had a huge return, and we just had all this IP that we were like, okay, cool, let's launch a new company. And now we're all about pushing blockchain and mass adoption. So what that means is that over the next year or two, we're going to be launching a few new parts of the business. Illuminate Capital, which is going to fund other blockchain and Internet of Things related products. We're going to have Illuminate Security, where we're going to do different security solutions for a decentralized world. And then Illuminate Hardware, so we're going to get more into Internet of Things and how the blockchain sort of interacts with our Internet of Things environment that's being built. And we're also going to have sort of our culture side of things consolidated in a think tank that we're based in Washington, D.C. Naturally, you got a think tank. So it's going to be a lobbying house, a place where people could come together and discuss the issues, a place where we could launch education initiatives for blockchain, whether it be on the Hill or at other universities. And so that's Illuminate. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll try to take less time this time. Okay. So you have 6 businesses that you've just pitched here.
That's right.
Off of a very small capital base. Which one of the 6 do you like the most?
Me personally?
Yeah, which one would you like to live with?
So
Who's the favorite son?
Who's the favorite son? That is a really good question. I think that when it comes to mass adoption, 3 of them are really, really critical. That's the consulting, because there's a number of government agencies, businesses that need people to build blockchain for them.
Right.
Naturally, it's the market intelligence as well, because you need to bridge the knowledge gap, and then our education initiatives that we want to launch through the think tank.
So how do you deal with the conflicts of interest? I mean, one hand you're building tokens, on the other hand you're objectively rating their quality. Don't you see how you kind of have an incentive to say the tokens you've constructed are better?
Yeah, so the way we sort of solve that is that each one of these businesses that we're launching, CoinScore is its own business, which is with its own valuation. So we're sort of, decentralizing our own organization. And
Okay.
Yeah, so actually that kind of goes towards my question was, so this capital round that you're going through, what's it funding? Is it funding the entire umbrella or funding specific?
Right. So the Series A we mentioned is specifically for CoinScore, but naturally we are taking investment for Illuminate as a larger organization as well. That's how we have the $7 million valuation on that.
Okay, so on that, then do you have any regulatory restrictions on, because part of that was a capital investment arm, right? So you're going to be investing that?
So we have not launched that yet.
Okay.
So that is something that we want to do in the future.
Okay, and then, so I guess you could tell me, who would be like your target client? Are we talking like institutions here, like hedge funds want your data?
Yeah. So for Illuminate Consulting, target clients are institutions that could use blockchain. For CoinScore, it's fund managers, family offices, analysts, academics, anyone who could get into the blockchain world. And it's just a way for us to sort of bridge the knowledge gap.
Okay, well, I mean, if that's the case, I think 500 for that premium option is way too low. I think you mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I mean, institutions will pay you 50,000, 100,000 annual subscription. Yeah. So.
Why so cheap?
We're evaluating sort of what the process is going to be. When we launch, we'll probably pull it up.
Way more. I have questions.
Yeah, please.
So the proprietary scoring methodology, I love the stuff. So how many iterations are you in on the methodology, and like how have you tested it? How do you know it works?
Yeah, so we have sort of a prototype that we're playing around with, and our tech team is naturally constantly innovating on that. In terms of the actual sequencing and where we're at in any particular part and the actual technology, I don't think I could say right now I don't think I could deliver it to you, like the answer on that, but definitely in 2 weeks or 3 weeks when we launch, I'm happy to share that information because I don't know what's under NDA and what's not and who we're working with.
Okay, so then, are there like principles or fundamentals, pillars, ideals that are driving the scoring methodology? Like, what is being most important in how you're rating? Like, where is the weighting being distributed?
Sure. So we look at the blockchain solution underneath any given cryptocurrency. We also look at, or the strength of it and what the return could be naturally. We look at how the cryptocurrency is sort of being adopted. It's anything related to the cryptocurrency, any metric you have there that's being incorporated into the coin score.
Okay. So then do you have specific success metrics, like 1 or 3 that you're going for? On when do you know that the scoring methodology is working?
Yeah, so we'll be releasing that information as we release the product.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's TBD.
Yeah, TBD. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think organizations like Consensus are centralizing the ecosystem?
Okay, this is not an answer that I've thought much about. But naturally, I think any blockchain company right now, because it's such a small space, is absolutely critical in pushing adoption of it for the people. And I think regardless of how that organization is structured or what it's doing, at the end of the day, keeping true to the principle of this is for the people, it's about unleashing human potential is absolutely critical. And I think companies like Consensus are absolutely sticking to that.
How do you think they're sticking to that, if you might mind my asking? How do you think that they are sticking to a decentralized philosophy for the ecosystem?
So they're building on Ethereum, and naturally Ethereum is built as the world computer. So yeah, they're building applications for people to use. They're my. We should talk later about this. So,
Thank you. Okay, next one we're going to have is, come on up, stow it.
Hello again, my name is Devin Eldridge, CEO of Stowit, and as I mentioned before, had a trouble moving my family, now 5, across town, and we had a terrible experience of having storage that we had rent for $400 and we used it for 3 days. And this kind of led me to the new experience that we have for Stowit, and we met so many people along the way that we never met anybody that said, I had a really good storage experience. And I think that would be similar if I asked all of you that today. And so we made it simple. We allow people to find these spaces for rent. We contact local hosts and they can request the space through the platform, through our messaging platform, request it and pay for it securely online. And from there, they just go move in their vehicle and continue to rent from them continuously. And just so you know, you can ask any questions later, keep the cameras on. It's just storage, it's not that sexy, but it is very practical. So we allow hosts to make over $1,000 a month of really easy money. They really don't do much work, they're just providing their extra space. They can save for their education plans, their family plans, whatever it is that they want, and we give them tools such as a $3,000 host guarantee, automated payments, and a great customer service. Jordan is one of our hosts. He said I wasn't really using my extra garage, but could use the extra money, and it just makes sense, and that really is how simple it is. Renters love us because we provide amazing customer service. We go above and beyond anything that the industry has done before to help them find it. And we make sure they get the right host to suit their needs. And they're starting to express that in their reviews and the way they talk about it with other people. People can go to our website, find a space that meets their needs for a time frame, price, and size requirements. They request the space for the dates that they need it, no more, no less. And then they put in the needs of what they need for what type of vehicle it is, how long they're going to be accessing it, and work those things out with the host to discuss pricing further. They enter their payment information online. Right now we utilize Stripe, and we'll continue to be looking at other methods of payment to make it more and more secure. So one of the biggest questions we get is around liability and insurance. Number one, this is just stuff, not people. So these models have been around and been pushed through in the sharing economy. We provide a $3,000 host guarantee. We haven't had to use it yet, but it is there for the protection of our hosts. Our renters have a vehicle policy. We encourage our hosts to check that policy and make sure that they do have insurance on it. And then we also are working with a couple companies to provide insurance on there in the future if they don't currently have insurance. We are extremely scrappy, and it's definitely one of our competitive advantages. We don't spend money on advertising. We do all of this through Craigslist marketplaces and Facebook marketplaces where people have had a terrible experience and bring them to our platform so they can have a better one. So we're on there constantly contacting. We know when the best spaces are coming up, and we're converting them right away. We also use storage is very local, and that's, I think, a lot of what other startups haven't realized in the space, trying to get on TechCrunch. Seems really cool. For us, the Denver Post is awesome because we have people in Denver that need storage and people in Denver that have extra space. So we also use the local press, and that continues that local SEO. And then we use referrals. People love the experience. They love talking about it, and we'll be building more of that into it. Right now we charge 4% to the host, and because our engagements are typically longer term, we want people to stay on the platform. So we do have a broad tier on the renter side of 6 to 14%, and that is decisive based on the time they're on there and based on the total price of that transaction. So the higher the price of the total transaction and length, it'll be at the 6% towards the bottom. Storage is an unknown but $37 billion industry, and to date, it has continued to grow and even shown resilience through recessions. We attack specifically the $7 to $10 billion vehicle storage segment of that, and we believe it's actually about twice as large based on the informality that we've seen in there of people storing vehicles at each other's houses and paying cash. Recently, we kind of also strongly believe that with the introduction of autonomous vehicles, garages and all real estate will be drastically changed, and we'll be at the forefront having access to all of those garages in the future for not only the vehicle storage, but for other types of storage. And kind of to mention some of the competitors that were mentioned in the first round. So there's a few different models on this. You heard of things like Clutter in the Bay Area, MakeSpace in New York, Omni. These are valet stuff storage. So you put your stuff in a bin, they take it off site, they deliver it back to you for a charge. We are very different from them in that we focus on the vehicles and we focus on the peer-to-peer model with also a few other introductions that we can talk about that, but still in the vehicle realm. Revenue opportunities in the future. Contracts are big for us. We've had a lot of hosts start demanding those. So everything we do, we test with our users. We don't kind of say something's going to be built and be awesome. We let our users give us that feedback, and we make them pay for it. And so contracts in the future is one that's been asked for. Insurance is another. We started a valet service as well on the vehicles. So imagine you come back from your 1-month RV trip. We pick up your vehicle from your doorstep, take it into storage, and we bring it back to you 2 months later for your next trip. We're still figuring out a lot of the pricing model on that, but we have an opportunity for some great rental arbitrage by taking that outside of the city, if you live in Denver, for example, and being able to make a lot of money on that from the low-cost space outside of the city. And then last, people still ask us for stuff storage all the time, so we decided to send it to the storage units, and they pay us $100 for every lead that we give them. Growth this year, we launched the web platform in middle of January, and we've grown about 70% on average every month. This month will be at about $9,000 in revenue, and we continue to see that, especially for the next 6 months. We believe 50 to 100% growth every month is still in our target range because we're getting better and better at acquiring the right spaces. Features, we have referrals coming out soon and reviews as we continue to get more users to add more trust with the reviews. We have over 300 active listings right now. We want to take that to 1,000, and we are very geographically focused right now we're based in Fort Collins, from Fort Collins through Denver, and making sure that market is very liquid and dense where it is. and that will lead us to about $50,000 a month in revenue by the end of spring. Technology, as I mentioned before, using blockchain or possible other technologies to make rent deposits, which is also something that's been asked for, and those smart contracts. Kind of just keep going with that. The blockchain, also delinquency notices is something we haven't run into very much yet, but there's a lot of filing and processes in each local geography when somebody is late on their rent and needs to be evicted. And fortunately, we haven't had to deal too much with that, but we've had a few situations where we've started those processes and they're cumbersome on our users. And identity management as well, just keeping our users' data safe. We have an amazing team. I'm a CPA and MBA. My background's in operations and finance. Carmelo, our Chief Growth Officer, is here. He has a background in startups, consumer-facing startups, and marketing. And my brother, Dylan Eldridge, is our CTO. He's remote in Minnesota. And he has a background in software development for lean manufacturers. And we continue to apply those processes as we test everything with our customers and look for their feedback on what to build next. So we welcome any questions that you have on storage or anything else we can tell you about. Thank you.
So what's your first smart contract?
What's that?
What's your first smart contract?
The lease contract. So being able to have kind of a record of that. Right now we have it in our terms of services, and there isn't really anything identifiable where people can go and see, oh, I checked in this date, checked out that date. Here were the late payment terms. Here were the kind of access terms that we agreed to, and what are the penalties or anything we could implement if they change from those terms.
Now, do you ever think you could decentralize this entire business and kind of Firestone it and just run it as a peer-to-peer protocol?
We have found our users are about, I'd say the average user is 45 to 50 years old.
Okay.
Their usage of a smartphone is pretty low. So we have found this is a very high-touch customer service industry. At some point, we do think that could be automated a lot more. But right now, I think especially in the beginning stages, there's going to be a lot of still touch with these customers and making sure that they're comfortable with the process. And that is kind of the human element to it that hasn't been there around. But I think in the future, yes, it is very possible. I don't think we're close to that with our user base.
That's a fair point. My final question is on insurance. So how does that exactly work? I know you have a $3,000 policy. Is that just out of your own pocket, or?
Yeah, that is completely self-funded. So
okay.
We just keep a reserve there, and that's why it's a little bit lower right now. We don't think it needs to be brought up too much, but $20,000, $25,000, something like that, essentially to replace somebody running through a garage wall or something like that.
Right.
But,
Okay, yeah, like your customer testimonial said, it's a great idea, it just makes sense. But because it's such a good idea and it makes so much sense, and you're starting locally, what are your plans to scale massively? Because it'll probably be replicated in different markets, and you'll just see kind of the springing up of different competitors around.
Yeah, so we have seen a lot of competitors. We've seen some come and die really quickly, and that is because they don't focus on one specific. We focus on the vehicle storage because the stuff storage is very high friction with peer-to-peer. You have people coming and going, looking at their stuff, getting it constantly, not knowing how much space they need. And with the vehicle, you can plan for that, and people typically don't access it. But you're right, there's nothing proprietary about it. We do focus also on the market density because we know that we have to have liquidity in a market for it to be useful. Somebody can start a market anywhere, but it's not useful if there's not a lot of density around it.
Sure. And then last question is, why don't you guys take cryptocurrency payments?
Once again, kind of going to our user base, so that we are introducing them to this first process of using their phone to book storage or to make extra money, which they've never thought of. And so kind of introducing these things one at a time in a way that can be communicated to them that isn't completely shocking and terrifying. So that will be a challenge as we do it. Go ahead, Yari.
Probably more due to like where you're starting as a market than like if I'm in Seattle. So if you pick this business up and you parked it into Seattle, I would say even though the demographic may be the 40-year-old guy with 5 cars or something like that, I think of my husband because my husband could use this totally. My husband could use this totally. But yeah, w- are you married to where you are as a location, or why wouldn't you move? I don't know, like.
Yeah,
guess-
so we like Denver, area for a few reasons. There's a very high hike in real estate costs, so it's caused a lot of building to take place, and a lot of storage storage typically lags where the population growth and the real estate growth is. So there's a good opportunity in Colorado. I think it is more because we're a home base here. I think there are other opportunities, and they will look different in different markets. San Francisco might be, more garage spaces and bedroom spaces in the future. For storage of things. So there is definitely a different market feel to each geographical area and what those needs are.
Then how do you know when you're ready to go into a new market? Like, what is the metric that you're watching for?
Yeah, so we really don't know what the top of this front range market is. So that is really what we're trying to find right now, and seeing, our first metric is to get to that $50,000 of monthly growth, which we know we can do. And from there, we don't know if it's between $100,000 or $200,000 a month in this front range area. But that is our first metric, is what is the cap of this market, so then we can go start applying that to new markets as we open them. Because we know how to open a market, we know how to find users, we just don't know how big that market is, and we don't want to start opening 10 markets if we still haven't found the top of this one.
So I have a competitive question real quickly. What would stop Airbnb from just quickly adopting your business model and competing with you?
Yeah, we kind of get that. I don't think Airbnb is interested in storage right now.
Well, if you guys become a billion-dollar company, they will.
Yeah, I think they're very different industries. So I mean, you have a travel industry, and like I said, our customer bases, they do overlap somewhat, but they can be very different.
Okay.
So, and so we have somebody with 5 acres of land and a giant pole barn. They're not renting out a space on Airbnb. So very different customer base, but yeah, similar models. If they want to look at acquiring us in the future, that'd be great. But I think there are differences in the users and the way we do things and the way we handle customers that are very distinct from a travel industry.
It was like the nicest deck I've seen in a very long time. So kudos to that. And then what would help you move faster? What is the most important thing that you need right now?
Yeah, so we feel like we figured out the model we are looking to raise a round in the future. We're not currently have the terms of that round, but really it's just adding fuel to the fire of the way we acquire customers and be able to find the top of this market and start expanding into new ones. So we have our technologies all built. There's features that we want to add, but we can continue to do those piece by piece.
Are you allowing people to rent these items or these cars if they're stored? And if so, do you have an insurance model in place for that?
We have not. We have talked with another company called Classics and Exotics that lets you rent a classic car about doing that and integrating that with our valet model, where we could take that to the person, they could rent it in a very like Turo-like fashion and rent the car, then we pick it up, take it back from them and put it into storage. But we currently do not do that.
And there was one last question that I had. Oh, are you planning on keeping personalized agents for customer service?
Personalized agents?
Yeah.
In the near term, definitely, just because of the high-touch nature of our customer base. Thank you.
All right.
So, okay, we're going to do one more company, and then Ari and Tony have a panel over here. I just checked with them, so you guys will be fine to do one more, and then we're going to take a break. And when they're done with that panel, at 3 we'll resume this. So one more company we're going to get up here. So the next one, Welto.
Okay guys, so again my name is Alex, I'm from Welto, and can I switch? We see the huge market growth of cryptocurrency, especially for the last few years. Yeah, this market is not stable for now, it's a lot of fluctuations there, but in a long perspective we can see that market should grow, and we know about the huge problems that exist on this market. There are just a few marketplaces that allow you to spend your cryptocurrency directly for some things. It's some shops or such stuff, and also you can order a BitPay credit card. But as we can see, based on our researches, not a lot of people trust credit cards for now, or debit cards that have attached cryptocurrency wallet to it. So what we are trying to solve, paying bills with cryptocurrency for now, because everyone has bills and everyone should pay for these bills, especially that our primary target customer is miners. They have money from their farms, they just mine them. They just mine them, and if they can have an ability to pay for the electricity that they're using for mining, and if they can have ability to pay for the internet that they're using for mining, it should be a big advantage for them. So how it works right now? Right now, you cannot go and pay directly your bill with cryptocurrency. You should go to your cryptocurrency exchange to which your cryptocurrency wallet is attached. If you have a cryptocurrency wallet on Coinbase, you cannot go to Bittrex or Poloniex or some other cryptocurrency exchange to convert money there, right? So you need to sell Bitcoins on your cryptocurrency exchange, and then you have to wait 3 to 5 business days, because it's a delays for that period while you're selling your Bitcoins, and someone should buy it. And you even should pay for this. So it's a transaction fee that you have when you're selling your Bitcoins and receive your converted money, fiat money. So it's like rest of your time, and you pay for this. It's ridiculous. And after that, you should also go to some online account of service provider, and only then you can pay for your bill. So how we are solving this? We have a great team on solving this issue. It's myself. I have a background in front-end development, in marketing, in management, and in finance and economy. I have my CTO, Dmitry. He's a Microsoft experienced developer with 15 plus more years of experience. We are using Microsoft environment, Microsoft infrastructure. We are participating in the Microsoft Bespark program. So all our infrastructure based on Azure. And because of the thinking of security, we have our security guru, Jin. He helped us to implement all security into our application, like two-step verifications, KPI tokens, and all this stuff. Move forward. So we have a bunch of people, advisors in our team, blockchain advisors. We are participating in Boomtown Accelerator, and they provide us really with a big and great network. So we just connected with Cabal Labs. This is a non-profit organization that merge all of the service providers across the world inside its organization. It's like AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, whatever. And in the future, we plan to connect with them more closely, that we can send them a request that, hey, someone pay his bill, like example for Verizon or for Comcast, and we send them a request to the API and receive a callback from them. And even we can grab the information about the bill for the user to our application. Something like that. So here is our solution. The user just needs to go to our application, create his own Welto account, attach his cryptocurrency wallet, and provide his pay information, set the amount, and hit pay. That's it. Instead of 3 to 5 business days, it just takes 3 to 5 minutes. So it's a huge difference. And also we have nice feature. It's integration with Alexa. We have Amazon Alexa skill. And you will be able, actually you are right now able to ask what is your cryptocurrency balance, and and you can ask to pay bill through Alexa, so you don't need to use a phone or go somewhere. Just use your voice. If you, like example, receive a bill, or maybe you cook something on the kitchen and you just remember, oh, I need to pay my Comcast bill, so just Alexa, pay my bill, and that's it. What are our target audience? So we are focusing on the United States market for now, and we plan to extend our product to the Eastern Europe, as I mentioned before, Russia, Ukraine, and all other CIS countries. Our target customers are around 25 to 44 years old, because it's a primary age for the miners and users of cryptocurrency. Alexa users, and in the United States, it's 3 million users of cryptocurrency right now. Based on our research, at least 60% would use our application paying bills with cryptocurrency. And in the world, it's around 20 million users of cryptocurrency, which can generate revenue in 1.2 billion. This is just revenue, and as we can see, the market is growth, so we can expect the revenue growth potentially as well. Our revenue model based across the transaction fee, 5% per each transaction for all beta users that can be involved right now. If you guys, like example, want to register and use our application, the transaction fee would stay 2% forever, not 5%. And from one user in such case, if he spent averagely $100 per month for his Comcast Xfinity bill, we can get revenue in $5 per month or $60 per year. And just for 10,000 users, we can generate revenue in $50,000 per month. 10,000 is not a big amount of users, right? especially for mobile platform and SaaS. So move forward. What's our roadmap? We've already a landing page, web, Android to iOS version. We launched a few marketing campaigns, and we are currently finishing our functionality, just extending it. As I mentioned before, we launched a beta release. And a little bit background about our application. Actually, we have already been launched on the market, but it was the idea as a financial manager integrated with Alexa. So currently we have more than 2,000 users and more than 400 active users in our application. And for them, we like just extending the existing functionality and adding new features. If you're going to register now and create a new account, you'll be able to see paying bills with cryptocurrency functionality, and you can go to settings and enable some models. We can show you how it works. And for the current users, we don't impact them. They're still using the same functionality, and they're able to use the new functionality as well. So we are going to show you a demo with our existing version while Dmitry connecting our laptop to this. I can show you how Alexa working. So we can ask Alexa, what is my crypto balance in Welto app?
Your crypto balance is $241,165 US on all of your crypto accounts.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Here is information. Yeah. Right. So let's go to the menu. We have bills section here. You can go to all bills. And here you can create a new bill. So you can see that we have different statuses on the bills that we previously created. Confirmed it's if payments has been received by the service provider, paid if you just paid it, and service provider has not received it yet. And processing, you just created it and don't send money yet. So let's create a new bill. Let's see how it works. So you just choose simply the category. Like example, let's choose internet category. You attach your crypto wallet based on, you just choose your crypto wallet that you already attached to our application. You set the amount, like example, let's put $5. It's not realistic, just for testing. You provide your name and put the account number on the bill that you receive from Comcast, like example. And here you're providing the information, pay name and address. Yep, almost done. So, okay, let's click make. So you have two options here. You can save this bill for future payments. Just click save. And then this bill will be added to our dashboard, and it will be like a history of this bill. So you just added a new bill for the Comcast, and the status is new. You can go and edit it and choose make payment. You'll be redirected to the page where you'll be able to see all your billing information and the amount that you should pay, transaction fees included. So if you have a Coinbase wallet, you just can send this to Coinbase, like example, and quickly make a transaction through the Coinbase. If you have a cryptocurrency wallet attached, not to Coinbase, but maybe to another cryptocurrency exchange, you can scan the QR code or just transfer money manually. Yeah, so it's a two-step verification. It's just all about the security. It's a little bit not useful for user perspective, but it's about his security, just to be sure that no one can steal his information. So again, when we signed into our Coinbase account, you need to also have a two-step verification. So we are going to receive one more text message. Put the information here.
Is that optional?
Two-step verification. For now, it's required. We can turn it off in the future, but actually we are thinking about other options, how we can implement security here. Just for now, the two-step verification is the best option for us. So we just made a payment for $5 to the Comcast, and we can return back to our page. And from our side, from the backend side, we received a cryptocurrency on our cryptocurrency wallet, and then our timer job sent a request to Wells Fargo API, and from our bank account, we sent, based on the billing information, electronic check to the service provider. That's it. Service provider receives the money, and it's finished for them. The process is finished for you. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
I like you.
Thank you.
But obviously, I think you probably have a UX designer. I would say have your UX designer spend maybe a few minutes looking at the deck. It would help a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a minimal product for now, and it's my minimal viable product for now.
No. I mean your PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, okay.
Have your designer look at it, or I don't know if they
we haven't
did or they
designed
didn't.
yet. It's prepared by myself, so yeah.
Yeah,
We'll hire a
it would
designer
help.
to rebuild it.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're using Google Material Design, it looks like.
Yeah, just that would be one point.
Okay.
And then 2, if the U.S. market is your target, I would Americanify the text and the copy and the experience inside the product, but it looked good.
Thank you.
And then 3, did you know Alexa has a venture fund?
Yes, we did.
Are you in touch
No.
with them? Are you not interested?
We tried, and they're not interested in us yet because we are too small for them. We'll keep in touch with them in the future, definitely.
Okay, and you also, I saw that Comcast also has a fund.
Right, and we are working with executive president from Comcast. He's our mentor in Boomtown.
Okay,
So,
cool. And then I have a product that can help you get users.
It's awesome.
We have 250,000 monthly active users, and this would be a good match, so we should talk afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
How easy is it for me to hack this if I'm using a VPN? Just like instantly?
Dmitry cannot hack it. He tried it previously, and it's not possible, even for him. So, especially assuming that he knows the functionality, how it's working. So you can try.
Yeah, so if let's say I don't link my bank account to anything, like let's say I don't use Coinbase, or let's say I use another crypto wallet where I don't have to provide them with any kind of identification, and you're targeting US markets, if I sign up with an account that's not registered in any legal jurisdiction, can I still use this product overseas if I'm running a VPN?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so I guess I'll just go back to my original question when you did your 1-minute pitch, this whole Wells Fargo API. It seems like that might be your biggest point of vulnerability, right?
Right.
With the bank. So what if Wells Fargo at some point says, you know what, we really hate these cryptocurrencies, we don't want to work with this customer. Do you have a kind of a backup?
Yes, we have opened accounts in other banks, like Bank of America, and we're not working with Citi, we're working with Capital One as well, just like have a backup plan. But Wells Fargo, for them it looks right now that we are a digital platform service, and we're just receiving money and send money, so we have a limit like 300 transactions per day, and in the future we can extend in our bank account plan.
Okay.
So I do have a question about volatility management. That's always been the bane of BitPay's existence. So you guys are taking the volatility side of the transaction. So what is your turnaround to convert these assets into fiat? So for example, if I have some Bitcoin and I have a Bittrex wallet or something, and you pay a bill on Comcast or something, how long are you actually holding on to Bitcoin?
We are selling it immediately. We are not waiting until the price change because we don't want to take a risk on our side. We're going to do it in the future. If we can have some big revenue, then we can play on this to make more revenue.
What happens when you're dealing with slightly illiquid assets? Like, for example, what if there's, I don't know, a new cryptocurrency you add outside of Bitcoin that doesn't have instant trading volume and you have a window of time? Do you have a strategy for that, or is it just you have to have a liquidity requirement for any currency that you list?
It's a good question. Do we have some liquidity requirements in our application? Actually, we not yet. Yeah, so we not have any liquidity requirements in this, and we're going to work on this.
Okay. The other question is the 5% fee. If we were to compare this with other bill pay services, where does your fee sit? Is it much higher, much lower?
So average fee is around 5.5%. So our one is a little bit lower.
Okay.
And we're gonna make it lower and lower in the future. We're gonna implement the referral program. So, like example, if you just registered, we have a 5% transaction fee. If you're gonna bring us 4 new customers, your friends, your transaction fee can be lower and lower and lower. So.
And can you set up recurring payments as well? For example, if I want to pay my monthly health insurance with this, with Bitcoin, could I do that?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yep. Thank you.
And here we have Phenomics Lab.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ed Kepler, and I'm the CEO and founder of Phenomics Labs. The problem we are trying to solve is currently, like a lot of things, there's a large centralized facility that has given power to a few plant scientists, a few companies, and we are looking to decentralize the phenomics facilities area. We're proposing small modular controlled environment growing units. So the key here is that in these units, we're able to dial in several different environments. And what we're finding is that plants are affected by their environment, whether that be temperature, humidity, or lighting. And because of that, their nutritional level and their taste has been being altered by a more dramatic, more stressful environment. And so Phenomics Labs is focusing on that problem to solve, and we're including imaging of an entire grow process with computer vision and machine learning to look for patterns and discoveries in environments and plant experiments. So in this particular case, we have 20 Phenomics Labs running 4 experiments, and all that is creating one data set in one database with one dashboard using one language in one location and one vendor. So with this, we're able to do multiple experiments. We're able to dial into fields on the top there. We're able to introduce weeds into the environment, disease into the environment, and insects into the environment. So the technology that's the core of this is the climate core technology. And with that, I'm able to monitor. So with this, we're able to monitor the EC level, the pH level, as well as temperature, humidity, and light. And then more importantly, we're able to execute a defined climate or a shadow climate, which is maybe a climate of a field. And then through automation, we're able to keep it within a min-max range, and we can monitor the effects of these changes. So throughout this, we're going to be doing machine learning on the readings of the environment and how it's affecting plants. And from that, we're hoping to predict climate and predict how climate affects plants. So this is a new area of study called predictive phenomics. And this is using machine learning to predict what that plant will look like in 2 weeks. And then what's exciting is in 2 weeks, that plant will actually be at the stage that you're predicting, and you have an immediate bullshit detector. So we have valuable data sets that are grown out of growing these plants. Here are some of the different data points that will come out. And then currently have a prototype, which is a mobile phenomics lab. It's a 9x16 trailer, and it is storing all the environmentals and taking images of all the plants during the grow, and it's storing them standardized in the cloud. So competitive advantages, we're much cheaper than the $10 to $15 million centralized facilities. We are far more flexible. It's a turnkey solution. It's just adding seeds, and they're transportable or portable. So multiple growing markets. These would be great for plant sciences, as well as universities and commercial greenhouses. So our roadmap is we currently have a prototype, and the next step would be to do a collaboration with either a seed company or a commercial grower, and then take what we learned from that initial pilot project and roll that into the next version of the prototype. So with that, that would be, I'm ready for any questions.
Hello. You're building, you're at the stage of a prototype. Are you intending to build, should we say, like a better mousetrap, better vegetables, or better organic vegetables, or biodynamic vegetables? What's
The hope would be more nutritious.
More nutritious.
To date, the industry has been yield-based, and most people are trying to grow more food. And what we're seeing as far as altering the environment, it seems to be changing taste and nutrition.
And are there any other competitors in the market that you've come across?
Not currently, no. I mean, there are people growing food in shipping containers. There's a lot of vertical farming, and hallelujah. So people are growing in cities, in warehouses. But with the science back end, I'm not sure of any.
And would this increase the amount of vegetables grown per hectare or per acre?
Probably not.
Probably not. Just give a better quality.
Yes. So this is really more for like experiments and for discoveries, and less for growing at scale. This is a plant lab more than it is a growing facility.
Okay. Thank you. Over to Rob.
Sure. Okay, so actually, I'm not a scientist in this field, so maybe even just like upfront describing what phenomics is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably should have done that. So phenomics is basically just the how the plant is affected by the genotype as well as its environment, and that's called the field of phenomics. And so it's been around for quite a long time, but for the most part, people are using rulers and observation as the way of identifying these traits or characteristics. And with machine learning and with AI, images are going to be driving those. And so that's why the Grow Lab is built the way it is.
Cool. Okay, so I guess I was trying to look at business case here. Like, like what's the market size, customers you're going for, why decentralization? Like, we all think it's cool here, obviously, in Nexus, but is it a good business case? Like, do the central facilities provide more efficiencies maybe that you would be losing by kind of partitioning it out and decentralized?
Yeah, I did get some feedback from customers, and there are use cases where the decentralized, more modular approach makes sense, mostly around disease and insects. And so those would be the use cases where this sort of model makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah, and then that one slide where you said you would be introducing disease and insects, I was like, why would you be doing that? It seemed counterintuitive, but now I guess I get it.
Yeah, so the goal would be to create a really good data set of bad outcomes, I guess would be what my business model would be. And it's good because I'm really not much of a grower, so that is a good thing.
Hi.
Hello.
I like you too.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
So, Ed.
Yes.
Hi again.
Mm-hmm. You're making me nervous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you help me? I guess what I didn't get in the first and second sections, and I think what's really important, because obviously there's a lot of thought and engineering research
scientific wizardry going on here that's beyond me. But what I do understand, at least having been around a few times on the startup circle, is that the team really matters and the founder really matters. And so since I don't understand the product and the why quite, and I don't think that's the most important thing, for me it's who's Ed? Like, why Ed? Why is Ed working on this? Why does this need to be solved? Why did Ed even start on this journey? What's Ed's background?
Oh, all right. Well, there's a good story there. So I started out just wanting to grow food in a trailer, and the reason to do that was that I felt like I could automate the process of a grow, because I'm a computer programmer. That's my background. I'm not a farmer or a plant scientist. Once I had the prototype, started with the business Grow Mobile, and that was more food production. But it's a very micro solution to a scale business, so that didn't really, the numbers never really worked. So I went out to the Department of Agriculture. I was invited out there because the Office of the President had heard about what I was doing. They were trying to figure out ways to encourage the next generation of farmers into agriculture. And this, as a high-tech solution, they felt like I could add something to the discussion. So I went out there. When I went out there, I met a researcher from Penn State, and he had talked about the success that he had had using machine learning for detecting disease. And I said, I have this great little modular mobile plant lab that I can use for detecting disease. So that's where Phenomics Labs came from.
And then before that, like, quick 10-second summary, what's your background?
So I've been a computer consultant for 16 years around data integration. Data, XML was my area of expertise, and now it's more big data. So I look at this as a big data play, even though I may not do a very good job of projecting that. But from my background, I see a huge opportunity in machine learning in agriculture, and I see that they're going to need data sets, and I can create data sets rather quickly in this device.
Okay, so then your management team, do you have a management team, and who's on it right now?
No, you're looking at the entire team. We're basement
Row.
at this point.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
So I think what we're going to do is like one question per judge and run all the way through to make sure everyone gets a chance, and then we can follow back. So next is...
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Ostrander, and this is Justin Caswell, and we are the founders of RevoKind. A little bit about my background before we jump into things. Long story short, I went to the University of Colorado, studied atmospheric science, environmental science, and then I started in a business in organic farming after college. So I built a farm, a greenhouse, started a farmer's market, a CSA program, and really the experience in that 3 years of running that business before I sold it was really what led me to create RevoKind. And so there are certain challenges for local farmers to find outlets for their products. And so our whole business is based around local food. And when I moved to Fort Collins and met Justin, and we started this company in 2016 and just launched in July. So that's kind of the backstory and where we're at now. So.
And just real quick on my background, so I've got about 20 years in industrial automation, primarily as a senior programmer. I've also been a bureaucrat, worked in Bureau of Elections. I've been an urban planner. I've owned multimedia businesses. So jack of all, kind of king of none, so to speak, but I've had my fingers in tech throughout all of it. So that's pretty much my background. And yeah, so we'll just get started and jump into it.
Yeah, and full disclosure too, this isn't our normal pitch. We're taking this opportunity to be around a group of people that is, familiar with blockchain. And so this is kind of the debut of and our announcement of what we've been building and developing with blockchain technology. We've really focused on our local food and logistics. And so this is our opportunity. Okay. So looking at global agriculture on a bigger scale, there are major inefficiencies, major challenges, and so this is the heart of the problem. There's a few central companies, less than 10 companies that control food and beverage around the globe, and there's huge problems that result from that, environmental issues and social issues, and we need a better food system. And so these are. We have no transparency with our food system and what's in it, where it's coming from. And so our platform is designed to connect people, businesses, and organizations through local food and be able to connect directly. So we're all about that direct connection and also being able to have those products delivered. So that's the core of the problem that we're trying to solve.
So a bit about the solution and kind of how we've developed our ecosystem of solution sets. So in dealing with our customers and our clients, we found, and of course we're talking about three different individuals here. We're talking about farmers and producers, ranchers. We're talking about businesses that are buying from them and also consumers. And so there's different challenges with each one of those. And based on what they were telling us on our first iteration of our platform, said it was just inadequate as far as feature sets. There was also some challenges that we were missing. And so we rebuilt it from the ground up with all of those things in mind, and so that's why we kind of have this broader spectrum of a solution set.
Yeah, and localized food production really is inherently decentralized because there are a ton of different producers, and agriculture is moving from rural areas back into urban areas, and so that decentralized system is what we want to do, is to create and connect people. So it only makes sense for us to use blockchain technology as well on the back end for that.
So one of our primary divisions is the logistics and delivery share aspect. This division focuses explicitly on the logistics side. And what we've found is whenever we talk to people in the local food industry, there's farmers and ranchers out there that already kind of deliver their food, their CSA shares at kind of the smaller level, and we're talking 180 acres and less. But the problem is, whenever you try to start scaling this up, and we've seen other businesses out there try to kind of do this similar model, the logistics part is the most important aspect. There's also zero visibility on transpo of food right now. Nobody really knows what goes on whenever that food product hits a distributor's truck or anywhere in that supply chain. Most people don't even know that there's chemicals being sprayed on it to preserve it, and there's a whole slew of problems. The other is the inefficiencies in the transpo system that we have right now for our food system, and we're planning on solving those, obviously using AI and machine learning, and we're going to be building on current technology to do that, but we're just going to do it smarter and better and make it available to everybody, and everyone's going to have full transparency on the transpo process.
So we have Revo Go, Revo Grow, and Revo Ethereum, and they're all kind of under this umbrella. But Revo Grow is really is a social marketplace. So, and I'd love to give a demo if there's time. So this is our marketplace where we connect people directly. So it's free to sign up. You register. You can see the marketplace. You can also see we have like recipes and just ways for people to connect through local food. And so we really have put a lot of work into the marketplace itself. That's the core of our revenue model. So we charge a transaction fee, and we also charge a vendor fee, just like a real farmer's market. So we've modeled our marketplace to kind of model after a real live farmer's market. So that's why we've built in some of those social features, because people don't just want to buy and sell products. And what we believe is that they also want to connect and co-create and participate and form in communities.
So the last part is, how do we solve this as a company? We're talking about a lot of different aspects here. Now, inherently, any company that gets into food systems, there's some serious overhead, some serious challenges that have to be overcome. The only way that we can do it in our minds, based on our research and studies, is by building a blockchain that has smart contracts specifically built for local food. And that includes the logistics behind it. That also includes being able to real-time change currencies. Now, all of this is on the back end, right? So the users are not going to be able to see this. They're not necessarily going to have access to this right on the front end. We're going to make it very, very easy for people to understand, because when we talk about farmers and ranchers, there's a high problem to solve there as far as being able to get them to understand tech. And so we have to build our interfaces very simple. We have to make it easy and streamlined. And at the same time, we don't want to deal with these existing financial institutions, because they're actually not only cutting into the profits of those producers, but also in ours and also in the consumers. So by doing it this way, we eliminate all of those issues, and we're also doubling our revenue model by implementing this system. In addition to that, we're also able to take our logistics system to a different level and basically streamline all of that paperwork and documentation that has to occur, and we put it into smart contracts and make that system autonomous. So that's the basic idea, and that's where we're headed.
So here's our team slide. We are lean and mean. Hit it one more time, because we're a team of 4 right now. Actually, not mean. They're really nice people, but and yeah, we're based in Fort Collins. We each have a very unique background and skills to bring to the table. We're really strong on the finance side. We're really strong on the marketing, and we're also looking to grow our team. So we just launched in July, and we're looking to expand, but part of our strategy has been to that lean method. So with our business and with our team. So we're looking for the right people at the right time. Yeah, and so I guess in conclusion, that this is an opportunity, and we're really trying to build something for the future. And the local food movement has already begun. You see a great rise in the number of smaller producers, and we really believe that this is where the future is going, that it's not just about local and organic, that it's about that direct connection and being able to connect directly and form better, stronger, and more sustainable communities. So thank you.
I saw your presentation earlier, and you said that the model was B2B. Am I right?
Yes.
And on that basis, if it's B2B, the consumption will be done at the consumer end. So with vegetables, they have a very high loss rate because of deterioration, unlike other products like cheese or meat, more so in fact. How do you make sure that the product is as fresh or fresh enough or fresher than the competition when it gets to the ultimate consumer who consumes this?
Right. Well, so in a hyper-local food system, it's inherently going to be fresher. It could be harvested that day and delivered that day, just based on distance. We're not shipping products from South America and from other places, and so for quality, actually blockchain will help us ensure that quality, so that, and for payments, that payment won't actually go through until they've received that product. They see that it's the quality that they want, and so once those conditions are met, they'll make sure that quality is there. And a lot of it is about building trust with food. And so, people who do source local, restaurants, for example, they only work with producers that they really have a trusted relationship with. And so we help facilitate that trust, and blockchain helps us do that as well with payments. So. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to cut it. We just don't have time. Yeah. So we got to talk fast, ask fast,
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next up is Luke.
Okay, sure. Yeah, kind of rotate it. Yeah.
All right, so I actually have an absolute ton of material that I'd really like to go through, but now that we're being compressed down on time, I'm going to run through it quickly. If any questions from the audience, anything that you guys want answered, I'll be around for the rest of the afternoon. Feel free to come and ask any questions that you guys have. If this will work. Okay, great. So, hello again. My name is Dee Worthington, CEO of Loop Global, a tube transportation company. What we do is we are working towards a vision of connecting the world in 5 hours or less. Now, when I say 5 hours or less, what exactly does this mean? So let's take an example. Maybe we start at Denver, right, at 10:30 in the morning like the screen shows, and we get to San Francisco in about 30 minutes. It's actually a little bit longer, but with the time change, it works out to that. Then we can depart San Diego and arrive in Beijing in a little over 2 hours. Come back from Beijing and be in Denver before dinner time really starts to happen, right? You could have dinner with your friends again or family. We call this time compression, and it's a service that we'll eventually offer. So we manufacture core tube transportation technology and develop mobility projects that interlink into this intermodal system, this idea of basically a seamless transportation system. Why are we doing this? Because the problem is actually is enormous, right? Who enjoys traffic? I mean, honestly, right? Anybody enjoyed the last time that they flew? Probably not. This guy did. Right on. What airline was it with? Private. Okay. Well, yeah, I would probably enjoy that. So traffic steals our time. Congestion frustrates us, and we lose billions of dollars in productivity. Pollution is a huge deal. 24% of all greenhouse gases are emitted by transportation. And then accidents, we lose over 4 million people a year to transportation accidents. The market is absolutely enormous. And when you start to say, trillions, people start to write you off immediately. But after an extensive amount of research, amalgamating all of the different types of transportation services and modes, this is the number that we get to. It's about a $10 trillion market, half of which is split into moving people. The other half is moving into goods. So what we do is we move matter faster, right? We can move people, cargo, parcels, energy, data, all sorts of things through a floating autonomous capsules that are networked, basically like a physical internet. And then faster is we do this through zero friction, an extremely small amount of drag, and then we also go direct to destination. So it's not like a train where you have multiple stops. You get into your capsule, you have a destination selected, and you go directly there. So what does this look like, right? The four core physical components are tubes, capsules, our magnetic levitation systems, a propulsion system that also regenerates about 90% of the energy upon braking, and then a operating system that controls all of the capsules, which could eventually be numbered into the billions, how there are billions of cars in the world today. So a very robust control system, capacity management. This is what the capsule looks like. It is car-sized to optimize the cost to build and operate along with market utility. So we can move pretty much everybody in the world that isn't 8'6" and 866 pounds. I mean, there's literally probably 10 people that fit into that category or less. And then we can move 94% of goods, right? So think about most of what you buy eventually ends up in either your car, truck, or SUV as you take it home. So the paradigm shift here is really allowing people to have a fluid mobility that can get anywhere in the nation in under an hour. I know that sounds hard to grasp, but when we break down the physics of it, there's nothing that doesn't allow that to happen, right? You have to have very tightly controlled conditions, and the curvatures along with the vertical and horizontal constraints are tight, but it can be done. We can use existing railroad right-of-ways and work with them. We're in current conversations with both UP and BNSF to access some of their right-of-way, of which is we would partner in this by using a method of incentives, right? We would use a percentage of free cash flow to pay for leasing the land. We could distribute not only access portals, but also energy along any of the right-of-way owners. The operation of our system is basically silent. There will be intermittent vacuum pumps that kick on and off just to equalize the pressure in the system. But we can operate on power line right-of-ways. right next to people's houses. I think that we can create a more beautiful infrastructure than some of the power lines that are shown on the screen. And then due to our optimized size, we can be integrated into the fabric of most dense urban areas, along with exploring the underground situation, which there has been more or less a renaissance in here in the past few months. So business models, how we make money is through 4 main pillars. R&D, which is an IP licensing play. Manufacturing, which we will only focus on the high value things that are not currently offered in the market. Propulsion systems, networking systems, our levitation system. The user experience, this is where we start to dabble into a little bit of blockchain. We're still in the conceptualization phase of what we want our chains to do, and I briefly touched on that about during our 60 seconds. And then project development, which we don't want to do all of the projects. We want to build the ecosystem and provide a bunch of information and materials and frameworks so that other people can go out and be, incentivized to do their own developments of routes worldwide. So we have a handful of competitors. Most of them are very widely known. Elon Musk has briefly said that the Boring Company might get into Hyperloop development. But here is a quick snapshot of what the differences are. Right, we are much smaller vehicles. We have a much lower cost per mile because the inside here is the cost for materials approximately scales with the diameter of the tube cubed. So tube diameter is cost is very sensitive to tube diameter. Our top design speed is about 5 times what Hyperloop can do. There's a lot of variables that go into that. And then our network ability is one of the things that really separates us. Our system is basically like automated cars operating on a freeway where there's an interchange where you can merge, right? Instead of a track system where the physical infrastructure moves. And then cargo, you can see 94, 98 is the 10x increase in cost worth the 4% in market utility. We would say no. Here's a brief size comparison. You can see us on the left and the different versions of Hyperloop that are being proposed on the right, very, very expensive. Another thing that we do, and I know that I've got to wrap this up, is resetting the cost structure for users. So right now cars are pegged at about 54 cents a mile. Our operational costs are somewhere in between 1 to 2 cents a mile. And then even with a 10x operating margin on that, we're still cutting those costs in half to the users. We have an amazing team that I have hand selected over the last 7 years. We've got a bunch of brilliant individuals that all bring a huge value to the team. Top tier advisors, some really well-known partners and suppliers, a couple of the biggest manufacturers of magnets along with pressure pipe and vacuum pumps. I know that I'm really am I over time? 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Okay. This is where we start as the maglev system, and the insight here is that this takes no additional energy once these superconductors are cooled, and I can get into that later, and it has no moving parts, right? So it's not this highly mechanical, interdependent system. It's something that relies on the Meissner effect, which is a natural phenomenon with superconductors and magnets. That's where we started. We did that. I was going to play some footage, but we don't have time. Phase 1 is where we proved out the full-scale, fully operational maglev system. This is commercial size. It's all good, ready to go. And our patent pending process is on manufacturing at scale one of these components. This is where we're at right now. We're about halfway through of a full-scale, fully operational proof of concept where we will levitate the world's first passenger, something that our extremely well-funded competitors have not been able to do. This sounds like a really capital-intensive project, but it's actually not. This is how the breakdown goes. As you can see, most of it goes into our company operating expenses and material and equipment, along with a huge R&D, well, not R&D, a huge IP bucket in there. We've got a backlog of over 50 ideas that we need to get pushed through. That leads us into phase 3, which is a 3-mile demonstration. I was going to try to show a better picture in that, but this showcases all of the commercial components that we'll need, along with establishing our technology readiness level so that we can enter into government contracts and really start to push forward the public-private partnership. It allows for about 18 months of rigorous testing, and then we'll open it up to the public for an interactive and educational tour. If we charge $100 tickets, you can see here, it doesn't really show up there. That's too bad. $100 tickets, we break even in year 3. And this is at a tiny fraction of the system capacity. Front range route is really where our eyes are set, at least for the regional vision. And this is more or less a decentralized transportation network where there's multiple access portals in each of these circles where you can get anywhere in this system in 30 minutes or less for $5 or less. And I'm way over time, so there we go. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. One question each.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a dying present question they'd like to ask?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So your metrics are quite compelling. How certain are you in those numbers, like relative to your competitors on cost?
Yeah, so all those costs are built on the numbers that we've been able to use so far. So the current numbers, and I think with economies of scale, that will continue to decrease. Even if we're 50% off, we're still pretty good. But I'm very confident in those numbers. I actually pride myself in budgeting. Cool, thanks.
Can human beings withstand 4,000 miles per hour? Both
Yeah.
acceleration and deceleration.
Yeah, so we would limit the system to 1 G of acceleration, not only for acceleration and deceleration, but also for the lateral and vertical curvature constraints. And also, if you briefly saw in the photo with the human sitting down in the capsule, we utilize a 0 G ergonomic seating position, which is the same seating position that NASA uses for manned space flights, which forces the G-forces basically down through your bum and your quads. So we haven't tried it yet, but our anticipation is that it will be very relaxing. We have a full-scale mock-up that you can sit in, and everybody says it's very comfortable. So we assume, and maybe that's a dangerous word in this case, that it will be comfortable.
Have you pitched this to NASA?
I have not.
Okay, that's something I would say. Who have you pitched this to that has a level of scientific discipline that could give credibility to this?
Yeah, we've got a couple peer-reviewed papers, but if I could get in front of NASA, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so you haven't pitched this to like a formidable institution of science?
I guess no.
Okay.
Okay.
Other question is, what happens if you were talking about the pressure clicks that make the noise? What happens if it doesn't click? Do people explode? You're talking about it's silent except for these pressure clicks that need to release the air or something?
No, it's just the vacuum pumps kicking on intermittently to bring the vacuum level down to where we need it to be.
If the vacuum level isn't brought down, what happens?
The drag is severely increased, and there's some other complications that can happen, and I have a ton of mitigation schemes that go from leaks all the way to catastrophes that I could explain.
Could people somehow, like with the pressure, could you cause people's heads to explode, literally?
I guess that's a possibility, yeah.
Okay. And
as it is on an airplane.
My other question is, how many investors have you pitched this to, and how many of those investors have shown interest?
The amount of investors that we've pitched to is under 10. It's extremely hard to get in front of people for whatever reason. They think this is so out there that it's not worth their time. They think that the timeline is too long. The ROI numbers are not attractive enough for them to take on this type of risk. Out of those 10, that being said, 4 or 5 have shown interest, and we keep them updated on our progress with hardware and business development.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So yeah, let's do, who's the next company? Bradley? Thank
you. All right.
All right, hey guys, thanks for waiting. So just a quick question. What do you do when currency itself is upgrading? Do you call Jim Cramer from Mad Money? Do you consult Goldman? So our thesis sort of necessitates that, you know, as currency itself upgrades, capital markets needs to upgrade as well. We saw this with Coinbase, the first billion-dollar company in the industry, and you'll continue to see it with sort of other businesses as well. So there'll be other folks facilitating the private issuance of tokens, other folks vetting tokens as they come out. So a little bit about me. Used to be an investor at a growth equity firm called Strex Group, then led research at CoinDesk, wrote a best-selling book called Break Into VC, focused on venture capital, and currently an entrepreneur in residence at Techstars, combining both of my interests, blockchain and venture capital, and finding solutions in this respect. And myself and two other colleagues have sort of banded together to sort of solve this problem of what happens when currency upgrades and essentially explodes. And you know, my other colleague here, Sid Kalla, one of the founders of a site called Smith & Crown, very well-known site for sort of analyzing ICOs and token sales, as well as our other colleague, Matt Ferrante, one of the security engineers at the Ethereum Foundation, literally holding Ethereum together at its seams as they prepare for a hard fork. So together, you know, we've sort of felt the need to, you know, move forward and understand this space as it grows. These are some numbers from my report last year. Just really quickly last year, you know, ICO volume was around 236 million. Blockchain venture capital, nearly doubling it, close to 496 million. As we sort of moved forward, we also saw that what we call Bitcoin dominance, so the percentage of Bitcoin market cap compared to the overall cryptocurrency market cap, for the first time later this year, struck below 50%. And while Ethereum sort of increased, so you saw this huge uptick in sort of Ethereum market share, largely due to sort of the increase in ICOs as well. And now you have this completely reversed situation where the ICO market is approaching 2 billion, while traditional blockchain VC sort of hovers around 360 million to date. Here's some of the top ICOs that we've seen so far this year. So as we sort of move forward, we start to see, you know, throughout this year that entire economies are becoming tokenized around these very large ideas: identity, storage, prediction, social media, attention. And we'll start to see the tokenization of everything very quickly. We'll start to see the disruption of large-scale markets, and as folks realize, it's essentially cheaper to issue and maintain your own currency than to use fiat. And we're converging towards this really quickly. You know, compared with the traditional, compared with ICO volume from last year to now, it's about a 5x increase. And so, when currency starts to explode, there's some real problems. I challenge you to go to JesusCoin.network and see, you know, some of the ICOs that are sort of happening now that are sort of beyond recompense. Dental Coin, Banana Coin. There's a lack of quality in the market, and there's a really low signal-to-noise ratio. There needs to be some sort of institution vetting projects as they move forward. There's also a lack of investor transparency. Really, the solution is gathering folks together to sort of, you know, collectively build viable protocols and networks, top-tier technical analysis, what we internally call crypto-economic protocol design. What are the true incentive structures of what you're trying to do? Why does blockchain matter? How can we sort of improve your initial, hey, I have an idea for a token, all the way to a successful sale? How do we sort of get access to capital, provide pathways to liquidity for these projects? Truly unique solutions that, you know, require a truly unique process with each sort of a client. So we sort of developed this process all the way from initiating coverage. So myself and Sid really well versed in understanding crypto research and architecting white papers. Matt from the Ethereum Foundation, as well as us, you know, really in-depth understanding of sort of token design, as well as source code audits for the smart contracts. We also deal pretty heavily with partnership strategy and sort of pathways to liquidity for blockchain projects. And we're very proud of sort of the first project that we've took on, Foam. You know, recently announced their protocol. They'll be essentially doing a $15 million ICO in January, February. So that gives us around 700K booked revenue. We have about 9 or 10 projects in the pipeline as well that we're really excited about. And again, we like focusing on these ideas with huge potential. You know, Foam is essentially a geospatial linking protocol. Imagine all of the opportunities in IoT, supply chains, simply checking in and using the Foam API as a wrapper to incentivize people to be in certain locations or hit certain checkpoints at certain times. And then a little bit about, you know, what we do, sort of the unit economics here. So we see this as a unit, myself and sort of biz dev strategy. We have an economics lead, a technical lead. As we move forward, each unit can do about 3 ICOs in a period. And we consider a period around 4.5 months. That'll get us around 8 ICOs per year at a cost of about $400K per unit, grossing us around $5.6 million per unit per year. So we're in the process of raising. We've raised around $1.5 million so far. I'll be going to San Francisco later this week to hopefully finish the round. But this necessitates very interesting questions, which is if someone views this market from our vantage point, we have a lot of data and insights related to sort of the overall crypto market. So you think about a company, another leader, BlackRock, right? Leader in asset management, providing this overall inventory management, end-to-end solution. We're having some really interesting conversations with a lot of financial services companies about how to educate them in the space with relation to data and research. And the end result would likely be an end-to-end investment solution similar to Aladdin for this new crypto economy. These are some of the things we're preparing for sort of late 2018. This is a little bit about our business model. So we'll be doing around 16 ICOs in the next 18 months. Should gross us around 12 million. And we have this sort of idea for a terminal for financial service companies to understand the space. Basic tier, about 2K a month. The premium tier, around 8K a month. And the average median crowd sale we're seeing that we may take on is around 10 million, but likely a little higher as the space progresses. So that's just a little bit about us. We're currently raising over the next sort of 18 months. This is a look at what we'll be able to do. And just wanted to sum it up. If anyone has any questions, my email, Bradley@Turing Advisory Group. And thanks so much, guys.
Can you send me your presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, it's great. Yeah, I think you have, and feedback, I think you have the right team to do this. And I think that makes all of the difference. And that you're only doing 16, this is essentially, this is a Y Combinator leveled up for blockchain and ICO. So I'm excited to talk to you more. Big fan of the work. Yep.
Is it Ron Paul time?
Yeah, okay, I'll ask the hard question here is what happens in a regulatory crackdown and you guys exposing yourself to potential liability, certifying these things?
What jurisdiction?
I'm sorry, what jurisdiction? Yeah. So typically we see a body like this working pretty closely with the SEC over time. From the information we've gathered, essentially they're at a level where they'll sort of tap people on the shoulder that aren't doing this correctly for the next 2 to 3 years. So we saw that with Protostar, this platform sort of launching celebrity tokens as sort of in this sort of equity model. So ideally, we'll be in a position where we can work with them to create better regulation in the future. Moving forward, we're sort of advised by some of the top legal folks, and we'll continue to sort of go to them for advice moving forward.
Great job.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, let's focus this and finish it up.
So once again, I'm Randy Henkin. I am the a co-founder of Blue Frontiers. I used to be the executive director of the Seasteading Institute. Together, these two companies have a collaboration to start floating islands with their own unique government in Tahiti. I'm going to do I got a lot of slides here, so I'm going to race through all these slides because when you're trying to build floating islands in paradise, I think that the pictures really help tell the story more than I could in my 1-minute pitch. So the Seasteading Institute was founded by Patry Friedman, grandson of Milton Friedman, and Peter Thiel, venture capitalist, philanthropist, first investor in Facebook, started PayPal. Joe Quirk, my partner, wrote this book called Seasteading. It's getting a lot of press. I suggest you read it. Is it better with the mic or without the mic?
Go without the mic just for now. Yeah,
Okay.
No, but you can do either. Just it's fine.
No, that doesn't want to do something there. Okay, this is when I signed the agreement with the government of French Polynesia. That's Minister Busseau. He came to San Francisco. We had a big party for it. The agreement obligated the Seaside Institute to conduct a set of research, an economic impact study, an environmental study, and legal research that would define what our special economic sea zone would be. We've completed that research now, and we're handing over to the government a binder this week that they will deliberate on, and by the end of the year, they will create the legislative package that will define our sea zone. So Tahiti is smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That's what the world looks like from space. You always hear this 2/3 water, but you don't know that until you zoom out. Right there, that's Hawaii. Down here is New Zealand. Up there is the Americas. In the middle is Tahiti. Tahiti is part of French Polynesia. French Polynesia is a protectorate of France. It has 118 islands, therefore it has an exclusive economic zone that's bigger than any in the world. So that's about the size of Western Europe. So there's a lot of places for us to grow and put other floating islands first in atolls, within an atoll where it's like safe from the open ocean. And if we ever do figure out how to economically engineer for the open ocean, we could grow just in French Polynesia. But Blue Frontiers also sees itself going out well beyond French Polynesia, manufacturing floating islands as a way to help people be resilient to rising seas. This is the lagoon. That's what it looks like when you're looking out to sea where we're going to be located. That white thing in the back there, that's a reef break. So that's what protects us from the open seas and allows us to make barge-like platforms that won't be hurt by big waves. There's not going to be that big of waves in here. If you understand out in the middle of the Pacific, the French Polynesian islands are giant mountains that have grown up from the bottom of the sea. They've eroded a little bit. That makes a lagoon. If they erode completely, that's what makes a atoll. There's about, this is going to be our view from our offices and bedrooms looking back at Tahiti. This is my team. What you're going to see in this presentation is a lot of pretty pictures, and I'm not going to show you a big giant revenue stream. We're building a really big project. We're an umbrella organization. There's going to be many subdivisions of Blue Frontiers as we build out this ecosystem and this village. So what I'm looking for I've actually never done a pitch like this where, hey, come and pitch your company and get some money, because I ran a nonprofit, and then I started this company, and I made a little pitch deck, and I sent it out to my friends, and I got $1 million, and now we're going to raise, another $5 or $10 million. We're going to do a crowd sale with a token. We're going to do an equity token in November. So what I think that you'll invest in is the idea and the people. And the people on my team are amazing. These are all the co-founders. Joe Quirk's down there on the bottom. We've been working together for years. Up top, we have Nicholas Germano. He's a Frenchman living in England. He's a web entrepreneur. Igor Ryzhikov is from Moscow. He employs 600 people across 13 different businesses, and he's decided to dedicate his time now exclusively to Blue Frontiers. And the reason we're in Tahiti is because of Mark Collins, who was a government minister down there, who invited us down there. He's an entrepreneur now and has been our ally in public affairs. So we are dedicated to a set of principles. We want to create value for the people. We want to be energy self-sufficient. We don't want to burn fossil fuels. We want to have a circular economy. We want to reuse our waste, and we can't pollute our lagoons, so we're looking for ways to make our waste into resources, and we want to actually make the environment around us better. So, why does French Polynesia want us to come there? It's not because they're like, hey, bring on the libertarians, we want you to have freedom. They're threatened because they're going to lose 30% of their land to rising seas. So 30% of those atolls I'm talking about are going to be gone in the next 50 years. And this is happening all across the Pacific. And if we can figure out how to manufacture floating islands and produce them at an economic price point that makes sense, then we can stop all these people from having to be climate refugees and having to move off to New Zealand and other lands. But additionally, seasteading is this big vision that we all own our own homes, or we're part of little communities and we have modular homes, and then we can form them and they float, and you detach them and reattach them. So if you don't like your neighbor, you're not stuck with that neighbor forever. And if you don't like your government, you can, go to another lagoon or another atoll to somebody who serves you better, and it makes government a service as opposed to a monopoly. That's the big idea of this. Floating cities exist. They are cruise ships. Thousands of people go out on these. I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. Is it possible to build this? Well, this is an artist's concept for building floating islands in the Han River in South Korea. They exist now. They built these. It's a convention center. They have restaurant shops, an arcade. There's another image of it. It runs on wave energy and solar power. We're going to do something similar with our floating island project. I launched this idea back in 2012, and the big breakthrough was this year with signing the deal. Again, I already kind of mentioned this, but we had to do these 3 studies, and we made a commitment. Again, why the libertarian-like people want to come down to Tahiti? We don't want to fund you guys. Well, we don't want your money. We want to do this ourselves. We're going to sink or float on our own money, and we're not asking for any government kickbacks, and that makes it a lot easier for us to get their support. At this point, the government is totally backing us. We don't have any resistance from the government. The elites down there, the people who get it in Tahiti, understand this. So when I chose to do this host nation route, it's because it, as opposed to going to the open ocean, which was the big idea of sea setting, it just makes it so much cheaper. To engineer for the open ocean is incredibly expensive. It's possible, but it would cost us billions of dollars. We can do this for tens of millions of dollars. It would be easier for our residents to be close to a marketplace. If you go into the grocery stores in Tahiti, you might as well be in France. They have everything you want. There's airports there. There's everything. It's a first world island. And then, of course, there's a legal precedent. We're not having to go out and be on our own with nothing that exists there. I know there's a lot of interest in the Startup Cities movement. In a talk we heard yesterday, or at the opening of the conference, saying, hey, we're going to start completely from scratch. And as nice as that idea sounds, there is a reason that there's an evolution of law that exists today. And a lot of law sucks, but having the legal precedent for us to exist in will make things a little bit easier for us to get started. And we can still push the liberty dial just enough to make this whole thing interesting. So why Polynesia? Well, they don't have many hurricanes there. There hasn't been a strike on Tahiti in recorded time. They have all these lagoons. It's a modern marketplace. I've discussed that. There's internet there. They have a giant internet bandwidth coming down from Hawaii, and they're only using 4% of it. And it goes all the way around the island. We can tap into it, and we can give opportunity for people like you who want to come set up your knowledge-based businesses there. And then it's a nimble and stable government. There's only 280,000 people in French Polynesia, 180,000 on the island of Tahiti. We have direct access to the presidency, so it makes it easy for us to get things done there. 8 hours from LA to Tahiti, tropical paradise moving forward. Who's going to live there? Well, here's the people that came, what's going on here? People like Ricardo Radulovic, who wants to grow aquaculture. He wants to take macroalgae and turn it into food, and turn it into fuel. People like Neil Anthony Sims, who wants to grow sustainable fish out in open cages without polluting lagoons. People like Michael Strong, who understand that through conscious capitalism, we can create jobs for people who don't have jobs right now. Right now in Tahiti, 50% of the youth under 25 don't have a job. So that's another reason why they want us there. And the only thing that's happening there is tourism and the selling of black pearls. And we can come down there and we can bring the caliber of people that come with us to Tahiti will create an opportunity that doesn't exist there right now. Oops. Maybe I pushed the wrong button. That's what it is. People like Tom W. Bell, who we hired as our legal scholar and is helping us write our C-Zone Act and is a master of special jurisdictions, who has shown us that special jurisdictions are existing all over the world. So when we try to sell this to Tahiti and we say, hey, all you got to do is make another special economic zone. They've been going on since the 70s. There's 4,000 of them now, 5,000 of them now. They're in 75% of the countries. So then we hired a company in Paris, because we have to work with France on this, to help us write the C-Zone Act. So this is our law firm in Paris. In Tahiti, they have this ship called the Paul Gauguin. And the Paul Gauguin, let's say I'm doing it at time. Okay. It's a special economic zone. It's in their waters. They don't have to follow French Polynesian laws. They don't have to follow French Polynesian labor law. They hire people from all around the world. They don't pay taxes there. They're flagged in the Cayman Islands and incorporated in Delaware and take money in US dollars. And if you're going to sue them, you sue them in Papeete, in the capital of French Polynesia. So this is where we're going. In the south of Tahiti there, you'll see these, it's along the south side of where that lagoon is. We're also getting a 100-acre parcel of land. It's virgin, uncreated or untouched land, undeveloped land that the government's going to lease to us, a 99-year lease. So that's the first thing we're going to develop. We can be there in 2018, getting started there. That's where we'll build our floating islands at, and that's where we can set up residencies and get started. We expect to be able to get a regulatory sandbox. We have direct connections up into France for this, so we hope to make a place that's very becoming to folks like yourself who are interested in the blockchain. And here's other types of business opportunities we see in our C zone: knowledge work, fintech, research, education, tourism, and my favorite is sea-related innovations. If you want to make yourself a submarine, we're about better to make it. So I keep pushing the wrong button here. We hired this group. They work for Blue 21, or Blue Frontiers right now. They're called Blue 21. They built this in Rotterdam. It floats. It's sustainable. It's made out of concrete and styrofoam and plastic. It's been there for years. This is what the Tahitian bungalows look like. They've inspired us. We want to make something that looks good in the lagoon. So these are the kinds of things that we plan to make. This is an actual Airbnb in Tanzania, and that shows that you could actually build something for inexpensive. We're going to go a little bit higher end, but we could still have something like this in our C zone. This is what we're looking at right now. So these are, there's about a dozen platforms. They're all floating. This is what we think the village would look like. We want to make it look like a floating island. Let's see. Here's a sketch we're working with, and more sketches. That's what it might look like from shore. And here's one more model of that. And we think we can make these islands for about $5 million a piece. So we're looking at about $60 million to make the pilot project. Here's another view of that. And these islands, so that could house 200 to 300 people. You could have a luxury unit. You could have a community house for 20 to 30 people to live in it. We want to use solar. We want to use wave energy. We don't want to use fossil fuels. These floating solar panels in the Seychelles are already powering a resort there. We'll do something very similar. So for us, French Polynesia is just the beginning. We see being able to manufacture this technology and shipping it to anywhere around the world that's threatened from rising seas, as well as from just overcrowded populations. And we could also help them set up their own special economic sea zones. We've gotten a lot of press. We've gotten 1 billion page views this year about this. The world is watching us. It's a viral story. We're going to do that token launch I mentioned at the beginning. Selling equity, we're just leaning right in. We're going to do what the law says, make it a security, not try to hide from that. Next year, after we know our regulatory status, we'll work on a different token process that may be more unique and be a protocol token of sorts. We want to know what we can do under the regulations first. And this is a last teaser view. This could be you. You should, if you're interested in the project, there's opportunities to get involved with us besides just being an investor. We have a lot of volunteers. I didn't mention this. There's 5 founders, 10 paid staff, and 50 active volunteers all working on different parts of the group. So we're taking in volunteers. We're taking trips to Tahiti this fall. I can tell you about that afterwards. You could live there. That's me.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I could see maybe 2 potential risks here, so I'd like to hear your mitigation strategy. So one is this could be a transformative, business concept for the world. So you go ahead, you do the first case, you prove to the world this is an amazing idea, it's worked out really well, and then people start to steal it. So is there any kind of intellectual property here, or are you open sourcing this?
It's been a big discussion amongst our team. So much of what we're going to do isn't about creating something new, it's about integrating existing technologies. And we are open source in our souls. So it'll probably really come down to, if we come up with something that's so innovative, maybe for the first several years we want to hold on to it. I think that to mitigate this risk is that we have first mover advantage. We have nobody else that's competing with us. There's nobody that knows how to go and make a deal with the government and then put together this kind of team and do this at this point.
Okay, yeah, and then the second question was the political risk. I mean, so if French Polynesia decides to renege on it.
Mm-hmm. This is a reasonable risk. At this point, Mark, who's our man in Tahiti, is confident that everything's going to go great. I do always want to hedge our bets, so we are. We've always had relationships with other people elsewhere, and if we have to lean in on those relationships, we will. And in order for us to. And if we have to, we're better prepared now than we were a year ago, because we can walk in, drop in. We have these technologies planned. We already got the architecture done. We already understand the economic benefit, et cetera.
I'm in. I love Tahiti.
No questions?
So, in terms of the way you're thinking about designing some of this infrastructure, not only from like a systems logic perspective, but in terms of creating like new special economic zones, would that be quantified in terms of the economy as a part of French Polynesia? And if you build something that's actually really truly generative, do you think you're going to face regulatory overhaul from the government of France, who's going to want more of a cut?
So there's a technique that we're trying to implement
Yeah.
based on the New York Convention,
Yep,
which
for sure. Arbitration, international arbitration laws. I know this inside and out, no doubt.
okay.
Yeah, no doubt. Blockchain jurisdictions, of course.
All right. Did I
Okay.
answer your question then?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. But wouldn't that necessitate either? So, are you doing this in terms of individual sovereignty, or are you doing this as a collective sovereignty for just seasteading?
I'm not really sure if I understand the question, Tony.
Meaning that in terms of leveraging the New York Convention, which the New York Convention is essentially an agreement that says if you're doing like one person has a company in Chile, one person has one in the UK, then under the New York Convention, you guys kind of have what is like an international platform for arbitration in case of any kind of legal instance. And you might be using it in a way that you can more eloquently describe than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what our plan is, so a threat to us would be that we come down there and spend tens of millions of dollars, set up shop, everything is going okay, and then they're like, hey, we want to tax you now.
right?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
want to tax you, we change our mind.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is write into the law at the beginning a way to prevent that.
Great.
And the best way to, and since we're not going to be changing their constitution,
Yeah.
which would be one way to do it. Of course, if we can change the Constitution that easily, they could change it again later. But the best way we've thought of is to write into the law that, hey, if you make a material change to this that would affect the value of our investment, then we would meet you in court.
And that would be through the government of French Polynesia?
It would be well, depending on whether it's French Polynesia or France. I mean, we have to deal with both of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, but the arbitration
Very
happens
good
outside.
point.
The arbitration happens in New York.
No, for sure. What if it's both of them?
Well, I mean, it would still be arbitration in New York. I mean, it would be, we have to see whether they violated their contract with us.
Yeah.
Right?
If that does happen, what do you think the likelihood of you changing the precedent is?
The precedent in New York?
Yeah, no, I mean like in terms of what, that would set a precedent that you guys would have a different kind of sovereignty, right?
We're getting pushed away here, but.
Okay. We can talk, we'll talk, yeah, we have
Okay.
plenty of time to talk.
Well,
Yeah.
let's do it over dinner.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And I just want to be a little bit fair. Rob's on our team, and Tony loves startup cities. And these were lots of great pitches. So I don't know that it's like a fair judgment if they were to choose us. I mean, I'd love to be chosen. If you do choose Blue Frontiers, I'll donate the money to the Seaside Institute, which is not the for-profit arm. So. Yeah.
Because he needs that. All right. Throw that on there real quick. Oh, his? No, they had a change. Oh, they had another change.
They have an SCTC.
I previously said Charger Card is a new type of credit card network alternative to Visa and MasterCard, with the only difference that current credit card network is based on banks credit, and our credit card network is based on direct business-to-consumer credit. So the problem that the system works like this today. If you want to buy something on credit or you want to get a service on credit, between you and a service provider or your shop will be a lot of mediators like credit card associations, acquiring bank, issuing banks that they charge $188 billion in interest and fees annually, only in the United States. So, and another problem is that actually 25% of US population actually do not have access even to this ecosystem. So they live paycheck to paycheck, and if they have out-of-pocket bill, they will not be able to cover it. So, and not because they're bad risk people that don't have access to credit, they just simply don't have credit history, right? For example, a lot of millennials, they don't have credit cards because they don't believe in banking system. So what we are doing, we are creating a technology platform that establishes, direct financial relations between customers and businesses. So the way it works, it's very simple. If you're a business provider, for example, a lawyer, you can give charge card to a client, which represents direct credit line. It can be $3,000 or $5,000. It's up to the service provider to decide. And then you, as a client, can use it and pay in installments for that. So as a result, a lot of money saved, billions of dollars saved. So on the for the consumer, right now they pay up to 30% in interest rate to credit card associations and banks. And we provide them with extra financial option, which is way cheaper than one that exists right now in the industry. And it's great for businesses because they can not only have more clients as a result because their service become more affordable, but they can generate more money because they can charge interest rate just like the bank, any bank. So up to 12%. And because they save money and make more money, they can share this money with their clients in different forms, rewards program or cashback. So, and the key differentiator from all these guys here is that they are all third-party financial groups, and we provide the platform for direct credit relations. So this is an interesting slide. I will give you an example. We, as a company, charge a card. We needed to pay a bill to create a Delaware corporation. And we asked our lawyer, is it okay if we can pay you in installments through charge a card system? Because, of course, the bill was rather high for us. And they said, absolutely. And it was the first validation of our theory because the company charge a card was created with charge a card system. And this is how we're going to go to the market. We actually thought about going to e-commerce first, but we learned the hard way to not do that. These guys are laggards, actually, of the whole innovation process. And we identified that the legal sector is actually the lower-hanging fruit here because they have this problem. They're doing it in a different way themselves, the installment plans, like telephone, every month they telephone their clients, okay, it's time to pay. So they just don't have the infrastructure to do it in a hassle-free way. So that's what we are providing. And so we are starting in November with small beta test group, testing our product. And then we will go to healthcare sector, freelancers, home improvement, and later, hopefully, to e-commerce too. So market opportunity, $55 billion are unpaid only in legal sectors. So, and we are aiming to help to collect this money and prevent non-payment in the future. And we charge flat 2% transaction fee, which represents actually for all the sector $1.1 billion. And like second example, healthcare sector, it's even bigger. It's $150 billion unpaid in bills. And again, if we charge 2%, it's around $3 billion. And we are planning to go cross-sectional. So, and here is our dream team. Me, Maria, I worked as IT project manager before, and I have a background in finance. My co-founder, John, he has more than 10 years in finance, and actually he already revolutionized research industry on Wall Street. He himself and his company was behind 1.4 billion settlement with Wall Street banks. So it's been an incredible journey too. And we have 12 engineers from the best school in Kyiv, Ukraine, where we have our office, and 2 financial analysts. So we are Charger Card. We are exploring blockchain option and blockchain network to run on. Right now we're running on ACH, but blockchain will be great in the future. Thank you so much for your attention. Yes, please.
Take ACH-based transfers, but not Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency?
For now, yes, only ACH, but I think that cryptocurrency is moving so fast that we will be able to provide this option soon.
Yeah, so one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is, so one example is $150 million in delinquent debt in the healthcare market, right? So that's kind of part of the justification for higher bank rates, right? Is to kind of do this risk sharing across clients. You're charging high rates to cover losses. So you guys are charging significantly lower rates than traditional, credit providers. So is that because you're doing something just at the core much more efficiently that justifies that? Or do you think that it's not really like full risk capture for the banks? It's not full risk mitigation, it's more capture in some way.
Right. We actually see ourselves as payment processing. First of all, that's why we charge that low, like lower than Visa and MasterCard, a little bit lower. And again, for now, we don't provide any insurance, so we cannot charge more because we don't take this risk, right? And we also we will address not collecting, but actually financial option that the lawyer or medical provider gives in the very beginning to their customers, so that ensure that the payments would be made from the client's account or patient's account to service provider account. And the way we do that, because the payment that are withdrawn from the account of the patients or client, they are withdrawn automatically every month. So once he confirms that he is in agreement with this installment plan, the money will be going automatically. Firstly, and secondly, as a second method of payment, we also during the onboarding process we ask to link your credit card, just in case that you don't have money in your debit account. We will ensure that the money will go out of your credit account.
Okay, so do the firms retain these debts on their own balance sheet, or are they some way kind of like securitized and spread around a bigger network?
Yeah, in the beginning they probably will retain, and they do it right now, like in legal service, like a lot of people, when you go to family lawyer or a lawyer who deals with startups, they all do that, right? And but in the future, we consider the option of charging higher fee, but insure the risk. We also we will be talking about partnering with companies that can insure risk, because you know that in banks, if the client defaults on the credit card debt, it's not the banks which take the risk. It's this risk is all insured, so it's the companies who do that. Yeah. Sorry?
We talked a little bit before.
Yeah, and you gave us fantastic insight. We shared the same experience with you that, which is the best way to go to market. And even it seems like a lot of companies in IT target e-commerce because it seems very sexy and a lot of money there, but it's definitely not the way to go first. That's what we learned hard way.
Probably be good to figure out what is the metric that matters more, like users that are signing number of transactions or transaction volume. And then I would also argue, like, instead of
legal, I like that idea a lot, but instead of going into healthcare, which is actually really, really hairy, to integrate, it's more complicated of a sales process, like looking into professional accounting firms, which is similar to a legal
Right.
firm.
Yes.
That might be more.
That's exactly what we are thinking. Yeah, they fall into the category of freelancers. Yeah, so we're thinking what to do first. Yeah, we might switch. Yeah, absolutely. It's all subject to experience, I guess. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Okay, the way we'll end this is, as I said before, we have 3 categories: innovation, ready for market, and the best cryptocurrency blockchain application. If the judges could kind of basically give their best pick for each 3, write those down, and let's step outside then for a couple of minutes. After you've wrote those down, think about that and write that down, and let's step outside, and we'll come back with the winners.
So I think each one of us is going to announce a category. I will start with the blockchain and crypto winners who are not here. What if we did that? What if we did that? What if we were like, you're not here to accept your prize, you didn't stick around? We already. Oh. Oh. So our winner. Okay, well, that's understandable. So our winner for blockchain and crypto is Practical VR. Woo! Well, I think that, the reason we had a very interesting debate about, there were so many things that we loved that were super duper interesting, but it was more the idea of the broad global impact I think that this could have for people who whose jobs are going to be replaced by automated labor. Like we loved the example of a person like picking up trash on the street and actually getting paid to do that, or someone living in a third world country who is able to take an iPhone and literally go like this and map their world and then make more money than they would otherwise potentially earn in a month or two. So the potential for that to really affect a broad humanity at scale was what we found really compelling. But I have to be frank in that the teams that were up here were literally all-stars. And I'm not joking you in that I want to be involved with them. Like I already told you, I love what you're doing and I want to get involved in it. I think it's amazing. So it was a really, really tough decision because everyone that got up here brought their A game. And this is probably the single best blockchain crypto pitch I have ever judged in my life. The decision was actually that hard. So congrats to everyone because you guys are all amazing. And I'll let them do category 2.
All right, guys, this was really hard, and that's why we took so long. Apologies. So for the innovation category, the winner is Loop. Let's, all right. So please solve our transportation problems. Yeah. So we know that transportation is a massive economic problem that you're trying to solve. The world's getting much more congested, so please move forward, do us a favor. All right, thank you.
Cool, thank you.
And last but not least, ready to market, we picked Stowit. We're all very impressed with the quality of the presentation and the just overall general readiness to be ready. I don't know, readiness for scaling, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to thank our judges here. They really did take time to deliberate in it. Rob, Tony, Ari, thank you very much. All right, this has been the last event here at the conference center. So again, thank you for the keeping. doing this. And I want to thank Ari. I'm just going to say thank you. A lot of four. Left to four. Okay, Ari. Okay. And Amos Peterson back here. Thank you very much for your guys' help. Appreciate it. So I'm happy. It's nice to know that we were through it, and I think this was a very successful first time. And it sets. And you guys, I appreciate everyone putting as much effort you did and time and thought into it, because this helps us for next year learn how to do it better. And the quality of you guys for a first time event, this is just really amazing. So thank you again very much.